Love Will Tear Us Apart is a song by the British post-punk band Joy Division. It was written in August 1979, and debuted when the band supported Buzzcocks on their UK tour in September and October 1979. It is one of the few songs in which singer Ian Curtis played guitar. The lyrics ostensibly reflect the problems in Ian Curtis's marriage to Deborah Curtis, as well as his general frame of mind in the time leading up to his suicide in May 1980. The title is an ironic reference to Love Will Keep Us Together. Deborah Curtis had the phrase "Love Will Tear Us Apart" inscribed on Ian Curtis's memorial stone. The song was first released in June 1980 and became the band's first chart hit, reaching number 13 in the UK singles chart. Later that summer, Love Will Tear Us Apart peaked at number 42 on the American disco dance charts. It also reached number 1 in New Zealand in June 1981. The band postponed their US tour after Ian Curtis's death, performed a few short sets as the No Names, then finally renamed the group as New Order. Love Will Tear Us Apart was re-released in 1983 and reached number 19 on the UK charts and reappeared at number 3 in New Zealand during March 1984. In 1985 the 7" single was released in Poland by Ton Press in different sleeve under license from Factory and sold over 20,000 copies. In November 1988, it made one more top 40 appearance in New Zealand, peaking at number 39. Love Will Tear Us Apart appears on the Substance compilation album. It was first recorded for a John Peel session in November 1979, then re-recorded in January 1980 and March 1980. It is the latter version that appears on Substance. The January 1980 version originally appeared as one of the single's B-sides. In 1995, to publicize the release of Permanent, the track was reissued, complete with a new remix by Arthur Baker and a new radio edit, also known as the Permanent Mix. On September 24, 2007, the single was again reissued, in its original configuration. This time, it was to publicize the collector's edition reissues of the band's 3 albums. Although the single was now issued on the Warner label, it retained the classic Factory packaging, including the FAC-23 catalog number. Recording, Pennine and Strawberry Studio versions. The song was originally recorded at Pennine Studios, Oldham, on January 8, 1980 along with the B-side, These Days. This version, similar to the version the band played live, was disliked by Ian Curtis and Martin Hannett, so the band reconvened at Strawberry Studios, Stockport in March to re-record it. Whilst Curtis played guitar on the song Live the band taught him D major specially the guitar on the recording was a 12-string echo guitar played by Sumner. Ian didn't really want to play guitar, but for some reason we wanted him to play it. I can't remember the reason now. I think Ian used to play only on Love Will Tear Us Apart. No, I'm wrong, there was another track too. Maybe Heart and Soul? I do remember Ian used to play just one chord, which was D. We showed him how to play D and we wrote a song. I wonder if that's why we wrote Love Will Tear Us Apart, who could drone a D through it. I think he played it live because I was playing keyboards. On the record I played guitar, a 12-string echo guitar, an Italian guitar that actually sounded pretty good. Stephen Morris disliked the re-recorded version. The version of Love Will Tear Us Apart that everyone knows, I actually hate. Martin Hannett played one of his mind games when we were recording it it sounds like he was a tyrant, but he wasn't, he was nice. We had this one battle where it was nearly midnight and I said, "Is it alright if I go home, Martin it's been a long day?" And he said, whispers, "Oh car you go home." So I went back to the flat. Just got to sleep and the phone rings. "Martin wants you to come back and do the snare drum." At 4 in the morning. I said, "What's wrong with the snare drum?" So every time I hear Love Will Tear Us Apart, I grit my teeth and remember myself shouting down the phone, "You bastard." Smashes up imaginary phone. I can feel the anger in it even now. It's a great song and it's a great production, but I do get anguished every time I hear it. While Joy Division were recording Love Will Tear Us Apart, U2 were in the studio to see Martin Hannett about producing their first album, boy. Lead singer Bono said of the encounter, "Talking to Ian Curtis is always a strange experience because he's very warm. He talked, there were like two people inside of him. He talked very light, and he talked very well-mannered, and very polite, but when he got behind the microphone he really surged forth, there was another energy, it seemed like he was just two people and Love Will Tear Us Apart, it was like, when that record was released. It was like as if there were the personalities separate, there they were, torn apart." Bono has since often sung snippets of the song during live performances, often during extended versions of With or Without You. Music video: the video was shot by the band themselves as they rehearsed the song. At the start of the video, the door that opens and shuts is carved with the initials of the band members. The video has production errors with color being browned out at some points. Another production error led to Curtis' vocals not sounding as intended. The song as originally recorded in the video sounds much more like their Peel session version. Curtis later re-recorded the vocals separately with distinctive hint of melancholy. The oddly shaped guitar played by Curtis is a Vox Phantom, often mistaken as the Vox Mark III. Reception: Love Will Tear Us Apart has remained popular and was listed by NME as the best single of all time in 2002. In 2004, the song was listed by Rolling Stone magazine at number 179 in its top 500 songs of all time. In May 2007, NME placed it at number 19 in its list of the 50 greatest indie anthems ever, one place ahead of another Joy Division song, Transmission. The song reached number 1 in the inaugural Triple J Hottest 100 music poll of 1989 and again in 1990. When being interviewed for New Order Story, Neil Tennant of the Pet Shop Boys stated that Love Will Tear Us Apart was his favorite pop song of all time. At Christmas 2011, listeners of Dublin's Phantom FM voted Love Will Tear Us Apart as their favorite song of all time. Furthermore, in 2012, in celebration of the Euro's 60th anniversary, a list of the 100 greatest songs of NME's lifetime was compiled, and the list was topped by none other than Love Will Tear Us Apart. Serbian rock musician, journalist and writer Dejan Kekija wrote about Love Will Tear Us Apart as one of the 46 songs that changed history of popular music in his 2007 book 45 Abortaja, Prio Pesmama. The song has also been used in television programs and in films, such as the 2001 film Donnie Darko, in a pivotal scene before Donnie has to leave his girlfriend in order to save her. The 2001 film Series 7, The Contenders features a music video for the song which characters explain as being part of a school project. Their homemade music video is in the style of a cheaply made 80s video with actors dressed in stereotypical goth fashion. The song is included in a 2002 film about the Manchester music scene, 24-Hour Party People, during several scenes about the band and Curtis's suicide. It was also included in the 2006 indie film Wristcutters, which takes place in an afterlife for people who have committed suicide. It is heard in the 2006 Doctor Who episode School Reunion. In the sci-fi comedy radio series Undone, the song is performed as a chime on an ice cream van. Love Will Tear Us Apart was also featured at the beginning of UK police drama, Silent Witness in the episode Voids, Part 1. The song is featured in the American Dad! Episode Escape from Pearl Bailey. Manchester United have adapted the song and their fans sing the song about Ryan Giggs. An edited version of the chorus is also sung by Birmingham City fans about winger Chris Burke. Sydney FC also adapted the song for former star striker Alex Brosk. A similar version is sung by the Barmy Army, English cricket's official supporters group when spinner Graham Swan is bowling. In June 2013, Mighty Box Games released Will Love Tear Us Apart, a browser-based video game that adapts every verse of the song into a level. Track listing, original release, 7 inches vinyl and 12 vinyl, Side 1, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 318, Side 2, These Days Euro 321, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 306. Track 1 recorded at Strawberry Studios, Stockport, early March 1980, tracks 2 and 3 recorded at Pennine Sound Studios, Oldham, January 8, 1980. In her biography Touching from a Distance, Deborah Curtis explains that the reason for the two versions of the song, one on each side, was a result of Curtis's slightly different singing in each one. One vocal take was allegedly done when other band members told Curtis to sing like Frank Sinatra. Like other Joy Division releases, including Transmission and An Ideal for Living, the 7 inches and 12 versions share the same tracks, but have different sleeves. 1995 re-release, cassette, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 338, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 325, 12 vinyl, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 325, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 338, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 412, Atmosphere Euro 408, CDS, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 338, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 325, These Days Euro 325, Transmission Euro 344, 2007 re-release. 7 inches vinyl, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 318, These Days Euro 321, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 306, CDS, Love Will Tear Us Apart Euro 318, Love Will Tear Us Apart 95 Euro 338, Atmosphere Euro 408, Chart Performance, Cover Versions. Love Will Tear Us Apart was first covered and recorded by Austrian new wave band Chuzp in 1980-1981 and has since been covered by many artists including New Order, The Cure, Dave Gahan, Peter Hook and the Light, Bad Lieutenant, Paul Young, Thom Yorke, Atoms for Peace, U2, Swans, Paragraph RK, Yat Kar, Fall Out Boy, Calexico, Jose Copyright Gonzalez, Nerina Pilote, Evelyn, Nouvelle Vague, PJ Proby, Human Drama, Heavens, Red Mecca, Motor Armor, The Maz to Miseries. Another Victim, Susanna and the Magical Orchestra, Moon Spell, Chuzp 77, Mark Owen, Hawksley Workman, Brothers Past, Adrian Borland, Unbroken, Broken Social Scene, Stanton Miranda, Adam Green, Block Party, John Frusciante, Arcade Fire, Revere, Square Pusher, Honeroot, Chris Edwards, The Blood Divine, Simple Minds, Oyster Band with June Tabor, Center Excuse, Jamie Cullum, Unbroken, Biss, In the Nursery, Apop Tigma Berserk, Absinthe and the Mulhollands. In 1996, the Serbian Eurodance group Tap 011 released a cover version of this song on Serbian language, with lyrics Ljubav nije gleda nasat, on their second studio album Goyi. The song Let's Dance to Joy Division by UK act The Wombats was inspired by Love Will Tear Us Apart, and includes Let Love Tear Us Apart in the lyrics. Similarly, Kaspapcha Akahi's song Alcatraz references Love Will Tear Us Apart. Do you think it's true that our love will tear us apart? Post-hardcore band Thursday released a song entitled Ian Curtis on their 1999 debut Waiting, the chorus of which features a repeated refrain of isolation/love has torn us apart. The song Tiny Skeletons by An Horse also references Love Will Tear Us Apart in the lyric Ian Curtis said it would tear us apart. Broken Social Scene's cover was featured in the soundtrack for The Time Traveler's Wife. Bush covered the song as a bonus track on their album The Sea of Memories, having previously covered the song In a Lonely Place. On November 11, 2009 the song was also performed in the opening scene of Season 5 Episode 7 of the CBS television series Criminal Minds, by the musician character Dante. The chorus of Love Will Tear Us Apart features heavily on the last third of Sufjan Stevens's epic song Christmas Unicorn from Volume 10 of his Songs for Christmas box set. Australian singer-songwriter Scott Matthew covered it for his album Unlearned. Soul Asylum also covered Love Will Tear Us Apart on their EP No Fun Intended, released on July 16, 2013. Charts, Swans version, Love Will Tear Us Apart is an EP by the New York band Swans, its 9th release. It features a cover version of the Joy Division song. It was originally released in 2 different versions with Jubbo and Gira providing vocals, along with 2 semi-acoustic versions of songs from their 1987 LP Children of God. On some versions, a 4th song was appended, a solo acoustic version of New Mind. EP track listing, musicians, Michael Gira Euro guitar, vocals, Jubbo Euro keyboards, vocals, piano, Algisks is a Euro bass guitar, Norman Westberger Euro Guitar, Charts, Rock Band Music Gaming Platform. It was made available to download on April 5, 2011 for Play in Rock Band 3 Basic, and PRO mode, which uses real guitar/bass guitar, and MIDI-compatible electronic drum kits/keyboards in addition to vocals. See also, Joy Division discography, references. External links, Swan's official website, Love Will Tear Us Apart, full lyrics of this song at Metro Lyrics.